journalist who provided key research for the now infamous Steele dossier was arrested on Thursday. Igor Danchenko was charged in a grand jury indictment with 5 counts of lying to the FBI about his work providing information to former British spy Christopher Steele for the Democrat-funded dossier.
Special counsel John Durham says Danchenko, you see him right there in the white shirt, a Russian national living in Northern Virginia, was the primary source for British spy Christopher Steele, who compiled the widely talked about yet debunked Steele dossier, full of accusations about former President Donald Trump. The indictment alleges that Danchenko lied to the FBI about working for Steele as his primary source of information.
As we know, Christopher Steele is a former MI6 intelligence agent who in 2016 produced a dossier outlining sensational and salacious allegations against Donald Trump, alleging, among other things, criminal links with Russia. Those allegations have been discredited, but it turns out there were sensational links, although not ones the Democrats wanted you to know about.
The indictment also mentions Danchenko's involvement with someone identified as PR Executive 1, someone believed to be close to the Hillary Clinton operation.
What we do know is that the FBI alleges, or the special counsel alleges, that in the course of Danchenko's interviews with them, he lied about where he got some of the information from, and he did not truthfully tell them that he received the information from this PR executive. It certainly plants a lot of doubts, even more doubts, about that now infamous Steele dossier.
It certainly does, but it's now very clear who PR Executive 1 is and where he fits in.
Then we find out that, in fact, he's on the payroll of the Hillary Clinton campaign. He'd been commissioned to write a report. And now we find out that the one guy that provided most of the information to him, Igor Danchenko, a Russian, was in fact getting a bunch of his information from a Clinton crony named Charles Dolan. This is a Clinton operation from beginning to end.
That's Charles Dolan Jr., Democrat and public relations executive who's been associated with Bill and Hillary Clinton since the early 1990s. He served a Virginia state chair for Bill Clinton's presidential campaign, and for his services, he was in 1997 appointed to a State Department board. And he also served on both of Hillary Clinton's presidential runs. Now, in addition to the American leftist media, who was it that was breathlessly repeating these claims of Russian collusion?
Hello and welcome to Four Corners. Tonight we begin our special 3-part investigation into the story of the century, the election of US President Donald Trump and his ties to Russia.
Donald Trump was elected president. But what if he had help? What if he was put into the most powerful office in the world by one of the United States' greatest foes?
The Kremlin's puppet master now has America dancing to his discordant tune. He couldn't have planned it better.
It was the biggest intrusion into Democratic Party operations since Watergate, and it's a huge part of why Donald Trump was elected president.
And what was the outcome of all that?
The special counsel did not find that the Trump campaign or anyone associated with it conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in these efforts.
The journalistic fizzer of the century. And not surprisingly, ABC are being very coy about this latest development. Search on the national broadcaster's website and there's barely a mention of it. In fact, all that's mentioned is this news item. And how is this for mealy mouth reporting? They say the case does not undercut investigators' finding that the Kremlin aided the Trump campaign, findings that were not based on the dossier. But it does endorse a long-standing concern that opposition research the FBI relied on in the Russian probe was marred by uncorroborated claims. That's an understatement. Even the Washington Post conceded, and I quote, "The allegations cast new uncertainty on some past reporting on the dossier by news organisations, including the Washington Post." And as Australian journalist Jonathan Swan, son of ABC medical reporter Norman Swan, tweeted, The charges are that not only did Clinton Democrats fund the dossier, but a long-time Clinton Democrat operative was one of the sources for the rumours about Trump. Doesn't get much worse. We all know the reason for the ABC's silence. Not only is this latest development favourable to Trump, but it shows unconscionable conduct by Hillary Clinton, her strategists in attempting to discredit him. Remember the outrage and carry on when the reverse was alleged?
And while Donald Trump denies colluding with Russia, he did benefit from malicious activity targeting his opponent Hillary Clinton during the campaign.
That there clearly was a Russian government effort to discredit Clinton and to help Trump, and that Trump officials at the most senior level were aware of that.
Classified notes confirming that the Steele dossier was completely fabricated by Hillary Clinton's campaign. John Ratcliffe, the man who exposed this and other Russia lies, joins me right now. Congressman, Director, it's great to see you. Thanks very much for being here, and thank you for all of your work all of these years, John.
Well, you as well, Maria. You've been an important part of getting this story out to at least some of the American people, and I'm glad that the developments that have happened this week, that some of the American people are getting to see some of the information that I saw as the Director of National Intelligence that was so important.
And it was so important for you to get this out. There is now a third indictment. We'll show those 3 indictments on the screen right now. And then I want to get into the 2 most important items that you declassified. You declassified these things before the election of 2020. And you also identified what specifically happened. Let's talk about John Durham's handwritten notes and what they say. This was one of the most important things that you declassified. John Brennan, sorry, listen to me. John Brennan's notes, and they were handwritten notes, and we're going to show them on the screen right now. Tell me what they said.
Yeah, so let's start at the beginning. We talked about this. I talked on this show with you about many things as a member of Congress, but when I became the Director of National Intelligence, I said, listen, I want to see all of the intelligence about this supposed Russian collusion. And what I found was, and as you're finding out, is there was, of course, no Russian collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. But what I did see in intelligence documents, some of which I've now declassified, that there was collusion involving the Clinton campaign and Russians to create a dossier. And so what John Brennan's notes reveal is, we talk about these indictments. Igor Danchenko is now the 3rd person to be criminally indicted in connection with the Steele dossier for peddling something that was known to be false to the FBI. But what's important here is John Brennan's own notes reflect, and the other document that I declassified show that our intelligence community and our FBI knew this ahead of time, that Hillary Clinton, we had specific intelligence that Hillary Clinton was creating a plan to vilify Donald Trump, to falsely accuse him of ties to Russia. And the intelligence community and the FBI knew this, and President Obama, Vice President Biden were briefed by John Brennan and James Clapper and Jim Comey in early August of 2016. And John Solomon's earlier point was right. It all should have stopped at that point. Everything related to the Steele dossier was known to be untrue, but yet it was the predicate for moving forward with an unjust, unfair, and ultimately now everyone accepts a criminally negligent investigation against the Trump campaign. It was a crime to investigate Donald Trump because there was no probable cause, as FBI Director Christopher Wray has admitted under oath. There was no probable cause for those FISA applications because they used the Steele dossier and it was phony.
So to underline John Brennan's notes, he says there was an exchange, and it shows us that Hillary Clinton has approved a plan concerning U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump and Russia and tying him to a scandal there. From then you had the CIA telling the FBI, this is the 2nd most important document that you declassified. And this is what's called a CIOL. This is a counterintelligence operational lead. It's the CIA telling the FBI, we have this information. Hillary has cooked up this plan against Donald Trump. You need to investigate it. Tell me more.
Yeah, so why it's unfortunately what happened there is the CIA, because it can't use our intelligence authorities under the law can't be used for domestic purposes. And then because this involved Hillary Clinton's campaign and people associated with it, a referral had to be made to the FBI. Unfortunately, as you see from that document, the referral went to disgraced FBI agent Peter Strzok, who had just weeks before receiving that referral had sent text messages promising to F Trump, to stop Trump, to make sure Trump would never become president. So as you said earlier, the person who was supposed to be investigating the fake Steele dossier before John Durham ever got involved was Peter Strzok. And instead what he did was bury that part of it as it related to Hillary Clinton, and instead took a dossier that he knew to be false, used it to get a FISA application that he knew to be illegal, and used it to perpetuate an investigation that went on for 4 years that misrepresented everything to the American people. And that's why everyone associated with the Steele dossier, with its creation, its peddling to the FBI, and its use by law enforcement authorities against the Trump campaign illegally, is in criminal jeopardy right now.
So do you think that that is what John Durham is looking at? Do you think we will see potential indictments?
Well, I know that, Maria, because as you know, many of the documents that John Durham is using are documents that I gave him. So I declassified the documents that we've talked about, but I gave John Durham over 1,000 other documents that have not yet been declassified that I know include intelligence that goes specifically to this criminal activity that would be the basis for further indictments. And, you know, again, what happened with the Steele dossier, a grand jury is saying was criminal in nature, and I expect that all of the folks that are involved with creating it and peddling it falsely would be in jeopardy. And I know that that's what John Durham is looking at. And as I talked about, you know, this goes to the highest levels of our government in the government agencies involved.
And we have pictures of meetings in the Oval Office with President Obama and John Brennan, when we assume John Brennan told President Obama that he had this information. We're going to show those pictures right now of the Oval Office where President Obama, Joe Biden were briefed by John Brennan saying Hillary Clinton has cooked up this plan to ensnare her opponent, Donald Trump. And this was way before Inauguration Day of Donald Trump.
This was
in 2016.
Right. August of 2016.
Those pictures I'm saying, yeah, August of 2016, right. And these pictures, we don't know if they were August, September, or October, yeah.
Well, the briefings occurred in August of 2016, so several months before the election. And again, Peter Strzok and folks at the FBI knew that the Steele dossier and was a Hillary Clinton creation. And as the Danchenko indictment reflects, Maria, not only did Hillary Clinton commission the creation of the Steele dossier, people that worked for her served as the sources for that information. PR Executive 1, who has been identified publicly as a gentleman named Charles Dolan, worked for Bill and Hillary Clinton, served as state chairman of their campaigns, was appointed by Bill Clinton during his administration, and worked for the Russian Federation. He was a source of the information, some of the most salacious allegations against Paul Manafort and about Donald Trump and the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. So all of that was make-believe. It was bogus, and folks within the law enforcement community particularly were aware of that and yet used it illegally and peddled it for a great period of time for a political purpose, which is just not only inappropriate, but as you're finding out, criminal as well. And I said a long time ago to you, Maria, I expect there to be many indictments. I haven't backed off of that, and I continue to think that there are going to be many indictments based on the intelligence that I gave to John Durham and that I have seen.
Yeah, and what happens to all of your colleagues on the left who attacked you throughout the years that you were trying to educate and inform the American people? Adam Schiff saying that there was collusion in plain sight. He saw what you saw as a congressman. He saw what Devin Nunes saw as a congressman on the Intel Committee. How did he come out and go on MSNBC and CNN and say there was collusion in plain sight? And what about Mark Warner attacking you repeatedly as you were informing the American people throughout 2018, 2019, and 2020?
Not only in that time frame as a member of Congress, but as the Director of National Intelligence, I briefed Mark Warner. I briefed Adam Schiff. I shared this information with them. They knew that it was true. They knew that I was being truthful, but they were concerned about winning a political election. They wanted Joe Biden to win in 2020, and
wow.
So that's the reason that they came out the way that they did. Look, the intelligence speaks for itself. Grand juries take the actions based on the intelligence that is and evidence that is provided to them. At the end of the day, the truth will defend itself, and it is in this instance.
It's great to have you this morning, and thanks very much for all of your truth telling, John. Good to see you. John Ratcliffe.